We're going to have a look through the Diggers Seed Annual for 2016-17. For all you members out there, you would have got this in the post in the last couple of weeks, and I hope you've had a good look through it, but if you haven't, there's a couple of little things I want to run you through, which I think are highlights. So on the front cover you can see we've got a whole range of all different colourful heirloom produce. Really what we're focusing on here is that we have every heirloom seed that you need. You'll see in the early pages, Clive's done a bit of a discussion around some of the politics of food production and why it's important to grow our own. We've also got in here a couple of highlights that I'd like to point out. We've got a wonderful new tomato that we're listing this year called green and black tomato. This comes from Tom Wagner's breeding. Tom Wagner's one of our contacts in the US. He's been breeding tomatoes for a generation. He's responsible for green zebra and green grape. So these wonderful green colours, which you don't normally associate with heirloom produce, are coming into tomatoes. They have the sweetest flavour. In fact, green grape was one of our taste test winners a couple of years ago. And green and black comes on the back of that breeding as one of the real highlights. It's special. We don't have that much seed of it, so we're only offering it to people who spend above $89 through this catalogue or online. Also, we've got in here, following the green theme, we've got Hayogen melon, and we've got the Richmond green apple cucumber. The Richmond green apple cucumber is an Australian heirloom that we've brought back in through our trials program. We've come back to the true source, and we're offering what is a true Australian heirloom. We've also got in here some of our more traditional heirloom varieties of tomatoes, so going to the reds. We've got red and black, which is a cousin of the green and black, which has this wonderful black blush, and before it's ripe, it almost looks iridescent blue. But when it's ripened, you slice it in half, and you've got this wonderful rich red colour in the middle. We've also got another release, which is Sunrise Bumblebee. Sunrise Bumblebee is very much like a Tigerella, which we've been offering for 20 odd years, but this is a smaller cherry style tomato that has a really translucent flesh that brings up this golden yellow stripes. And its production is incredibly abundant. It'll fruit right the way through into April and May in the cooler climates. We've also got a number of other selections in here which I would thoroughly recommend. We've got our heirloom rainbow collection. So these are all Australian heirloom varieties. We've got, not Australians, they're worldwide heirloom varieties. We've got combinations of colourful vegetables like the 5-colour silver beet, the striped eggplant, and married up with things like the Naughty Marietta marigold, which is a nematode resisting marigold, which also has the wonderful flowers that you can add into your vegetable garden. In addition to that, we've got a page of Australian heirlooms, which are something that we're really focusing on here at Diggers in the next year or two through our trial program, bringing back some of the great Australian heirlooms into our. As you flick through your garden annual, you'll come to our garden planning tool. This is our so what when map. So when you're planning your garden, at this time of the year it's cold and wet and you're not really thinking that much about the summer harvest, but this is the time of the year when you should get your seeds in hand and you can start to plan your sowing for the season based on these climate zones. From this point in the magazine, we move into an A to Z of all the vegetables that we've got in our Diggers Seed Annual. And you'll see in our annual that we have little excerpts where we talk about generic things about how to grow things in your climate, and some tips and information about the crops that you're growing. So for beans, we've got a section here on whether you're growing pole beans or whether you're growing bush beans. And we also have tips in here, if you look through the magazine, on how to get the best results from your crops. In our corn section, here, you'll see all our wonderful corns, including our Painted Mountain spotted corn, our super sweets. But you also find tips like we've got a little tip here on planting in blocks, not in rows. Because if you're planting corn, you want to get a decent crop. You're better off to have a wide block in 3 foot by 4 foot. So you've got a lot more pollen running around in your crop to get pollination and get more seed heads. If you're just planting in long rows, the pollen tends to drift off and you don't get as much. So you'll see as you go through here, we've got other tips like in our garden greens section where we're saying you can sow every 2 or 3 weeks, so you're getting a regular cropping of your salad greens through the spring and summer months. Heirloom flowers are an essential part of every garden, not just because they look beautiful, but also they have a practical purpose for the vegetable gardener. attracting pollinators and helping with the diversity of your vegetable garden. So we've got a page here in our garden annual of flowers for the veggie patch, which includes a whole bunch of edible flowers like nasturtiums and green heart orange calendula. And if you look at the little symbols in here, which is an interesting point to pick up in the catalogue, we've got a couple of symbols here that talk about whether they're predatory attractors, whether they're soil conditioners, whether they're good for pots, and also whether they're good as edible flowers. If you refer back to the chart at the start of the catalogue, all these things are mentioned in the legend. We've got a little icon here for edible flowers. So you can grow your flowers to look really lovely, to add to the diversity of your garden, as well as be part of a wonderful salad ingredient. We've also got a page on wildflowers. And wildflowers are a part of gardening that are really taking off amongst gardeners in Australia as they are across the world, especially for organic gardeners who want to increase the diversity of flowers and biodiversity in their garden. So we've got a few mixes here. We've got a spring flower meadow mix, we've got a cornflower meadow mix. And you can plant these en masse in a front garden like one of our members has done here. We've got a member photograph here of a wildflower meadow at the front of a house. You can also plant them as a drift or as a bed through the middle of your vegetable garden. So you're getting all those wonderful pollinators and insects and predatory insects coming into your garden. And on that note, we've also got a page near the back of our magazine, which is flowers for good bugs. So here we've picked out some of the best insect attracting flowering plants for your garden. So we've got echinaceas, we've got borage, we've got a beneficial insect collection, which includes Queen Anne's lace, dill, salvias, white cosmos, which bring in the lacewings and other predatory bugs that are going to eat all the aphids and problem insects for your vegetable garden. So there you have it. That's this year's Diggers Seed Annual. There's plenty of material in here for you to get excited about the coming season in the garden. And remember, all members have access to advice via our website. You can email us at info@diggers.com.au. So get out there, start sowing and get the season going. Happy gardening.